Hello, my name is Guilherme Furlan. I'm the creator of the Project Management Craft. My goal is to help engineers to be high-performing project managers. This content is part of the warm-up for the Project Management Week that will happen from 6 December to 9 December. And if you are interested on that, click in the link here in the description. Please subscribe. The event is for free. Today I'm going to talk about important characteristics of a project manager. I want to make this video because if you have been following me for a while right now, you've seen already I've been talking for some of those items for several times. Uh, First of all, I think what initially triggered me that discussion a few months ago, I was basically looking into the internet when I saw a list of characteristics that a project manager should have. When I looked to that list, I think there were more than 20 items. And then I start to read and I was like looking like, okay, okay, okay. And at some point I realized, okay, but if you have everything in that list, that means that you are perfect. And honestly, I don't believe that. They're saying, oh, leadership. I do not believe in those leadership lists that you have 20, 30, 40 items that you should have to be a good leader. This kind of stuff that does not exist. You can look for any type of or any leader that we have in history, and I challenge you to go to that leader and find this is, I don't know, 20, 30 list of items that those people have. Because in reality, it's impossible to have all those characteristics. Of course, you have some of them, and some of them you can develop, but you're not perfect. No one will be able to complete everything like that, which is completely fine. That's why we work in teams. And if you work in a good team, your team members also will have different characteristics as you, and then you complement each other. Then you become a high performing team. But let's go back to talk about project manager, not talking about the team itself. I'm showing here in the screen first the project management principles as defined in the PMBOK 7 edition, and I'm putting here a very small list of important characteristics of a project manager. That's my personal view that a project manager should have, and I'm also, of course, I'm comparing here with some of those project management principles because there's some overlap there. It's not a surprise, of course. Then fourth characteristic that a project manager should have, it's ownership. By what I mean by ownership, this is the type of thing that you could fit on the project management principle as stewardship, that you are looking for the best use of the resource, but also for the leadership, because the feeling of ownership, it's like this is my project. I need to work and I need to deliver that. That you are not sitting and waiting someone else to take a decision. Then sometimes a problem will show up. That happens all the time for projects. You might not be able to solve by yourself, which is completely fine. But if you are the owner of the project, what you are going to do? You are going to organize a meeting with your team, or with, you might involve some additional stakeholders, and you're going to discuss the problem and say, okay, guys, we have this problem here. How can we solve it? You might brainstorm, might have data. Okay, we need data. Let's collect data. Who's going to be that? Then you start to organize and you start to assemble a team and you start to work on the issue. What cannot happen is that if you are the project manager, you just sit there and you're waiting. Because if you're waiting for someone, you don't have this feeling of ownership of your project. And of course, when I'm saying that, that's directly connected when I mention initiative, because if you feel the ownership, you're going to take the initiative. You're going to take the initiative to talk with your team members. You're going to take the initiative to talk with your manager. I can tell you that most of the companies they are looking for that, because It's impossible you can have the best leader in the world. It's impossible that someone will tell you exactly everything that needs to be done. Even if you have the best plan in the world, things will change. That's something that's guaranteed for you. Project plan will need to change and will need to adapt. Uh, the plan in your company will need to adapt. The process will need to adapt. And life happens in between. It's impossible to just try to be a robot and work step by step. The activities that just do that, there's no, I think, can be very mechanical. Those are also the activities that likely will be replaced by artificial intelligence in the future. Then, if you have the ownership for the things and if you are taking the initiative, that's already a great step. I can tell you that the, one of the things that made me grow in my career, even when I was just hired, I was a junior, it was this feeling of ownership and initiative because I was there. Of course, I was a junior just starting to work. I was just starting to learn project manager out of the engineering school, and then suddenly I have a problem. And some people would just sit and wait. I was just like, no. And I would just start ask questions, and I would go to my manager. Hey, we have this problem here. We need to solve it. How we are going to do it? And I would follow up with him because I had, oh, hey, we need to solve these. And of course, sometimes the manager or the director, they have a big list of priorities, and what you are trying to discuss there, it's not maybe not the first priority they have, but they would appreciate to have someone in the team saying, hey, this guy is helping me here. Because even though that's not my top priority, that's something that I need to handle. So I'm going to look, he keeps coming back, and that's nice. Because more responsibilities he has and more he needs to organize, more we need to connect. And the fact that he keeps coming back, that helps because that makes sure that you are not forgetting stuff. Then ownership in initiative, this is part of leadership and that's essential for your career. And to have this ownership initiative, you don't need anything to do that. You don't need experience, you don't need high knowledge. You just need to think by yourself and talk with people to try to solve stuff. You can have a problem in a project. Again, if you cannot solve it, that's fine. If you don't know how to solve it, that's fine. You can organize, get the people together, that's the initiative, and say, hey guys, we want to proceed with that, how we are going to solve it. That's taking the initiative, that's taking the ownership, that you are moving in the right direction. One other characteristic that it's quite important is resilience. Resilience you also see here in the project management principles, resilience and the adaptability. I'm going to talk both separately, but why resilience is so important? Because you, again, you are going to have the best plan in the world. You can have the best company in the world, the best team. Things will happen that are not planned, that are unforeseen. There's a lot of uncertainty around of that. Uh, it's impossible to avoid uncertainty. It's impossible to avoid risks. Sometimes you are completely things completely outside of your control zone will affect you. And resilience, that means that even you are going to take a hit, and maybe if you are looking for a material like steel, it will bend, but it will not break and it will come back for the initial position because you're going to face a lot of adversities, and which is fine. That's part of any job, anything you do, you're going to face adversities in life. That's simply part of life, which is good because it helps us to grow and think in different ways and help us to learn. But you need to be able to handle that. It cannot be that every time you have a problem that breaks you. That's why resilience is so important. Because if you want to grow, you're going to have bigger problems to solve. You're going to have bigger challenges. If you work in a very small team, very small project, you have some types of challenge. If you work in a multi-million dollar project, the number of challenges that you're facing if you're working with teams around the world, suppliers around the world, several countries involved, there's a lot of things that's going to happen. In the past, we had COVID. Few, uh, hopefully, we don't go there again. But what happened 2 years ago? Everyone had to work from home, and we need to adapt. And you said, ah, but I do not like to work from home. That does not matter. You cannot control that. And you need just to be resilient for us to be able to move forward in what you are doing. And that comes to the next point. You need to be able to adapt. You can look for a lot of one of the quotes that I loved from the Second World War. That's that's like every plan needs to adapt. If you start to study strategy and if you look more about on great generals and so on, the only thing that you have guaranteed that's you are going to need to adapt your plan. And you see again, adaptability and resilience, they go together as a part of project management principles because that will be your reality. There's nothing that you, if you say, I don't like to adapt, sorry, you can plan as much as you want. Things will change. That I can guarantee. I cannot, of course, the degree of the change might be different, but adaptability, it's also, when you look for adaptability, it's also really embedded on when you talk about agile methodologies, agile framework. Why? Because things are changing all the time. You like it or not. For example, a few years ago, I was working in a project and everything hopefully was on track, and a supplier declared bankruptcy, completely outside of my control. Of course, first you need to say, oh, that's a big hit, but you need to come back of that, and that's resilience. Then you need to take ownership and initiative. You need to put the right people in the room to at least to talk and discuss it. And you need to learn, okay, our plan was to have this supplier to adapt. They are facing bankruptcy. They have a plan to recover. But what if they cannot recover? What we are going to do? Then you need to adapt your plan. Then at the time, in this project, the supplier declared bankruptcy. We adapt our plan. We find out a new supplier. That would mean a 6 month delay for the project. Another, I don't know, 200, 300K investment. And so be it. If you say, I don't like it, I don't want to do it, that will not change the fact that the supplier was on the verge of bankruptcy. If the supplier closes, then we are done. Then you cannot deliver the project, you cannot deliver the product. That even though if you have an extra cost, if you have other problems, you need to face it. That's about adaptability. I've worked in projects all over the world in different, I work with energy construction, automotive, and all other types of projects, but I could not never find a type of project that go there and you don't need to change. That's the only guarantee that you have that you need to adapt. Then it's impossible if you do not do that. I worked with construction projects. You need to adapt all the time. Why? Oh, it starts to rain. If it rain for 1 week, you lose 1 week of work, depending on the type of project and what you're going to do. You need to change the plan. When I was working a project in it was a mining expansion in a mining company in the Amazon forest for several different reasons. We did the entire construction part, then we would have to move for the assembly. But because of some changes in the project, we would not have all the material on time. Then we had to stop and have a break, 2 months without anyone working there, just because we did not have the material. That was not part of the original plan, and we had to adapt. Of course, there was a lot of customer negotiation because who is going to pay for the cost? We need to change extra time and so on. There's a lot of things involved there. But that's what I mean by adaptability. If you have the ownership, you're going to understand this is my project. I need to take the initiative here. Things happen, they are not planned. You might not like it. It's fine. Take the heat, release it, be resilient, and learn to adapt. And one of the last points um, that I want to talk, it's about learning mindset. Learning mindset, I would say it's almost part, you are going to see that in almost any, in all those PMBOK principles. And why I see the learning, if you have those 5 year, you should be okay because most of the things you can learn. if you say, I want to be a leader, that's something that you can grow, you can learn there. You can make your personality assessment, learn what are your skills as a leader, what's your leadership style. You can ask for feedback to collect, okay, what are things I need to improve, how I can do that. You can talk with people, you can have a mentor or a coach, you can do a training. Then every time you're going to learn, that's in a continuous improvement, and you go for the next step. You go for the next step. Then you can learn to be a project manager, you can learn finance, you can learn engineering, you can learn leadership, you can learn to be a better team member, you can learn how to manage changes, how to manage stakeholders, you can learn how to manage project quality. Everything there you need to learn, but you need to be open to learn it, because learning is not a passive process. I cannot teach you something to you. I can only show you the way. Like there's a saying in Portuguese that you can take the horse and bring the horse to the river, but you cannot force the horse to drink the water. What does it mean? Like, as a professor, I can show you a lot of things. I'm doing it right now. I'm trying to teach you something, but it's up to you to say, to open your mind, say, okay, this guy, it makes sense. Then I'm going to start to think and work conscious and work actively on that, conscious on that. If you don't have this learning mindset, it, you're going to stay behind. That's it. You can be the best engineer in the world. If you start to learn, if you stop to learn, if you start with that, you're going to be left behind. That's the reality, because the world is changing. We are changing. The society is changing. We are facing different challenges every day. It can be all types of things. That's something for guarantee that you need to continue to learn. And again, coming back to what I mentioned at the beginning, why I do not believe in those huge list of items, because even if you continue to learn, probably in a lifetime you cannot learn all those 20, 30 skills to master that, to be excellent on that. You cannot do that. Look for Steve Jobs. Great visionary, great leader. He basically he changed the world. He was horrible with people. You can look for Margaret Thatcher. She was a great leader, yeah, well ahead of his time, of her time. She did not create any, she did not develop any other leader. Then that's something that was develop new leaders. That was probably a blind spot for her. And you can look again. I'll look for whatever leader that you want. You're not going to find this perfect person there. But if you have the ownership, if you have the initiative, if you have the resilience, you learn to adapt, and if you keep learning, then you can go far. Because part of learning it's also to have a feedback loop, that you're going to ask feedback to people regularly, not only once every year. Hopefully, you're going to ask for feedback for your team members. You're going to ask for feedback for other stakeholders. One of the projects that I was working on, I was working with a plant in Poland, and for some items, I was having uh, a mismatch of culture there. And the only way I could start to close this gap and make this bridge was to have one-on-one with those guys in feedback sessions and ask them, okay, how do you think we can do these things better? I'm, I'm here to work with you. I want to help you. How can we better work together? And just for having this discussion, 30 minutes discussion, the connection starts to be much better, because those people would understand, okay, this guy is here, he wants to help me. And yeah, of course, in the day to day, you can have all kinds of discussions and arguments, but in the end, you understand that we are not fighting each other. And that's quite important to have this feedback loop. But that's part of the learning mindset. And all other skills that you need to grow as a project manager are going to come from this learning mindset. That guarantee if you have those five here and you keep learning, you're going to develop a lot of other important characteristics. But those are the fundamental ones. With those, you can develop your leadership, you can develop your team skills as a team member, and you can develop also your team members as a coach. You can grow your project management skills, finance skills, business strategy, or whatever. As long as you continue to learn and you are always open to that, again, because learning needs to be an active act. You just don't sit there and just expect to someone, I'm going to learn everything. And by learning, of course, you need to hear what I'm saying or what other people say in trainings. You can read books, but also you need to act on that. You say, okay, I learned something new. Let me try. Like if you go for a MS Excel class, in the class they're going to present you, oh, you can do this, use this formula, and you say, oh, that's quite nice. Then that's the first step, of course, of learning. You're opening your mind, you're seeing a lot of knowledge there, but you need to try, you need to exercise. Then that's the important part of learning. You cannot do that just by sitting there. If you go for a full class of Excel, MS Excel, Microsoft Excel, and if you don't do anything, I can guarantee you that in 2 months you don't remember anything else there. And it's the same thing with everything that you are learning. You need to practice, you need to practice, you need to practice, and you collect feedback and you go step further, step further. And then, of course, you can start to master yourself. Then you can develop a lot of other characteristics as emotion intelligence. And again, you're going to grow for leadership, you are going to develop hard skills, soft skills, and so on. But that's why I want to highlight again that those 5 year ownership initiative, resilience, adaptability, and learning mindset, they are the foundation for everything else. That's my point of view. If you take one of those things out here, you're going to have troubles continue to grow. Even if you cannot adapt, you can have the best plan in the world, it will not work. Things will change. That's what history shows us. And when I talk history, it's a very recent history. COVID changed the world. The war Ukraine-Russia. It was unforced. It was unexpected. No one thought that we would get to that level. It happened. You need to adapt again, and the entire world needs to adapt again. And all those things that you look in history, it happens. It does not matter if you wanted it or not. Remember, I think I'm a big fan of Stoicism. One of the things that it's also very highlighted there. The only thing that you control it's your own thoughts. How do you react to things? And that means that's adaptability because whatever happens around the world, whatever the life throws at you, you're going to process it, you're going to adapt as you need it. And complaining will not help you, saying that I don't like it will not help you. You can only move forward and you need to be able to adapt and continue to learn, of course. I hope you like this content. If you like it, please like this video and share also with your friends and other people that you think might like it. Again, this is a warm up for the next week, Project Management Week, where we are going to have much more content about that. If you're interested, this is a free event. You just click the link here, subscribe. Hopefully, I'm going to see you there next week. Thank you and bye.